Back in 2020, Sony held a Future of Gaming show where they showed off new and upcoming games for the PlayStation 5, including the next installments of beloved games like Ratchet and Clank, as well as follow-ups to smash hits like Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Full of the exaggerated swagger of a black teen.
But one of the games featured stood out from the rest, a brand new IP from a small Canadian studio named Co-op, Goodbye Volcano High. A game that took everyone by surprise, as unlike all the other AAA games being shown off, GVH was not a huge open-world 3D game with intense action and RPG elements. Instead, it was a 2D choice-based narrative-driven story centered around a bunch of anthropomorphic dinosaur teenagers in high school as an incoming asteroid threatens to wipe them all out. The game centers around Fang, a non-binary pterodactyl entering their senior year of high school, and their friends Trish, Reed, Sage, Stella, Rosa, Naomi, and their brother Nasser. The gameplay is relatively simple. The story progresses, and at points the player is given multiple options for how to make Fang respond, changing the story and the character dynamics with each choice, much like a Telltale game. This allows the player to create a story and version of Fang that they want to see. It isn't anything too complex or fancy, but with what is essentially a fully animated visual novel, it's all it really needs. The game also has multiple musical minigames for Fang and their band, Worm Drama, relatively easy little rhythm games where you have to direct the control stick and input buttons in time with the music and visuals. They're pretty fun for what they are. This is essentially the entirety of Goodbye Volcano High, and while it does seem a little straightforward at first glance, there is much more to this game the deeper you look into it, and I'd like to use this video to talk about that deeper look into GVH. But before I get into that, I should mention that there will be spoilers for pretty much every aspect of this game and its story, so check out now if you want to avoid them. I will also be completely transparent. I am a very big fan of the Goodbye Volcano High parody Snoot game, so there will obviously be some level of bias in regards to GVH, but to try to be as objective as possible, I will not compare the two games at all for this review. The Good. Goodbye Volcano High's absolute biggest strength is its music. As I said before, the music minigames are rather simple, but pretty fun on your first playthrough. Worm Drama's music was written and performed by Dabu with Bridget Nagar on vocals. Nagar, with A's. I didn't say anything else that may sound similar to that, YouTube. Nagar. Oh, I'm gonna get struck for that one, aren't I? People keep referring to the music as Midwest emo rock, and honestly, I'm all for it. Ever since I finished the game, I've been unironically listening to Don't Call and Reunion all the time, especially in my car. They're bangers. Nothing else to say. The game doesn't have much in the way of background or tonal music, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It lets you focus on the dialogue more, but the game does flourish decisions with this stinger note, I don't know what the proper word is, helping identify important choices that you've made for Fang. A real less is more choice in my opinion, although the title screen could have used some light tonal music in my opinion. In regards to the voice acting, I find that each character has a voice that feels pretty appropriate for their characters. No one's voice feels to be noticeably weaker than anyone else's, and that's honestly a pretty impressive feat for any piece of media with voice acting. Good on both the VAs and the voice director, Sarah Elmaleh. The character designs are also pretty well thought out. While I personally don't love or hate any of them, they are all very distinct, and you never once get characters confused with one another, each having a main color for them to help prevent any sort of confusion. The designs are also well thought out in regards to most of the characters' personalities. Reed has a relaxed slacker sleeveless tee, Rosa has a floral patterned dress, and Nasser has a professional but lame shirt and blazer. I should have mentioned this in the beginning, but I am not an artist by any means, so you have to take my art criticisms with a grain of salt. That being said, I do think the game's backgrounds are great. They're almost all bright and colorful and appropriate for a California-inspired location. Maybe I'm totally wrong and they're all complete dogshit backgrounds, so if you're an artist, tell me why I'm wrong in the comments so I can change my opinion and say whatever you do so I can sound intelligent to others. I should also credit the character designers for their attention to detail. All the carnivores have claws and sharp teeth, while the herbivores don't. I did not notice this until my second playthrough of the game. And this is something of a small spoiler, but I do think Stella's final tarot card reading is pretty clever and meta, with each choice being a completely different card with a different positive message on it, when any other studio would have just made it so that the card you pull is always the same one.
The bad.
Now that I've talked about all the things I believe are good about Goodbye Volcano High, I'm going to be completely transparent. I do not like this game. I think it is very bad with a ton of issues ranging from game crashes to underwhelming writing. When I started this game, I really did give it an honest try. I wanted to be fair and give it a chance, hoping that it would surprise me and that I'd find things I liked about it. I did not. To start with, there are tons of technical issues, from screen tearing between shot transitions to audio clips being cut off to bad lip syncing. Even after the first post-release patch of the game, nearly all these issues are still here. I played it on stream the week it came out, and the game literally crashed for me and I couldn't continue until said patch came out, like 4 days later. Oh, it's going out, I guess? I don't... The game didn't glitch, did it? Sounds like the card's on the screen, but bugged out. Oh my god. It's got a lot of bugs in it. See, same thing. This, they should let this bake for another month before they put the game out. It's not even the fact that the game's freezing, it's the fact that it's like at the very end that it chose to freeze up. Yeah, okay, so it's just bugged the fuck out. Okay. After the first patch, this is the only thing that was fixed, as far as I could tell. I'm not an expert on visual novels, but I do know that quality of life issues are problems for all games, regardless of the genre. And all games have features that should be standard to make them easier to play and to record. Like, for example, GVH has no fast forward function or even a chapter select, making replaying the game to see different choices a massive pain. Oh, you missed your chance to pick this one option you only get about 3 seconds to pick? Well, you better replay the game from the start and not forget to choose quickly this time. And speaking of chapters, the game never mentions what chapter you're on at all. I would have never known I was halfway through the game if it weren't for the Steam achievements popping up. Co-op. These are very simple fixes that'll make a huge difference in both the player's enjoyment and the game's replayability. Now, to play devil's advocate for the game, a lot of those issues can be argued to be a new game plus decision only, the devs wanting you to play the game completely pure the first time through, and that would be fair in my opinion, but they're not. And the fact that these very obvious oversights exist in GVH sort of implies that the devs know that the story is mediocre at best, leading to the biggest issue with Goodbye Volcano High, the writing. Goodbye Volcano High has terrible writing, which is detrimental to a visual novel. To start with, the characters are all paper thin. Every character has one interest, and they never shut the hell up about it. Fang, the band, Reed, D&D, or Legends and Lizards, or whatever the games, it's the same thing. Trish, the bugs, Sage, cooking, Rosa, Trish. And the other characters don't really have anything, so they're not obnoxious because they have nothing to them. And while it is important for characters to have interests and hobbies to help round them out and make them feel realistic, but every character in GVH only talks about one of two things: their single obsession or the main plot, and it makes them all very annoying. If I had to hear Trish talk about her stupid worm manga one more time, I would have found a way to Elliot Roger Volcano High for my own goddamn sanity.
I'll be a god, exacting my retribution, and all those who deserve it.
And don't get me started on Trish, aka the most universally hated character in the game. Trish is written to be loud, obnoxious, somehow both aggressive and cowardly, and ridiculously selfish. She ties to the main story's plot of Fang wanting to perform a local music festival, Caldera Fest, and use the money to go on tour over the summer. Yeah, the band is the main story, not the asteroid coming to destroy the entire planet. Over the summer, Trish discovers a newfound love of bugs and entomology and realizes she no longer wants to go on tour and instead wants to focus on studying insects for a future career, which frankly is completely understandable. Trish is about to graduate and enter the real world for the first time ever and now has real world decisions to make. What isn't understandable is that for the entire year of the game, Trish never once tells Fang that she doesn't want to tour, even though she's given several great opportunities to do so, instead choosing to shy away from the important but uncomfortable conversation. This leads to Trish eventually blowing up at Fang, claiming that Fang never listened and only cared about what Fang themselves cares about. While streaming GVH, this is where both myself and my chat completely hated Trish because the writing is so bad, it makes it seem like they specifically write Trish to be unlikable.
That's what you love, Fang. You never asked what we wanted.
It's been very clear what you want. You know what? Yeah, fuck you, Trish. You had plenty of times to tell these things.
Okay, then tell me. What is it that you want?
I shouldn't have to tell you, Fang.
Yeah, you really shouldn't. It's pretty clear.
Is it too much to expect you to ask? To even care?
What is it? How is it so
I
Fang?
do care.
You could have said at any point, I
Why
can't
have
do
you never
Calarifest.
noticed what I wanted?
You want to do the bug thing. It's very clear. You know what? Yeah. I'm going to say this one. She could have said at any fucking point.
Trish, how long have you felt like this?
Does it even matter at this point?
Yes, it does.
Fang, you refuse to see anything you don't want.
Look who's
That's
talking to
not
you,
true.
fucking.
Isn't it though?
At least I'm upfront about what I want.
Okay, you there,
This
bitch.
whole time, you still haven't told me anything.
Yep.
What do you even want? You have always had my back. Why are you leaving right when it matters the most?
Okay,
I'm more shocked you didn't figure this out.
When have you ever had my back, Fang?
She supported your stupid
We've
worm.
always done what you wanted to do, and that's
You,
fine.
the band was your idea.
There's only so much time we have left. I can't spend the rest of it following along after you. I need to think of myself too.
But then Fang ends up apologizing to Trish. When does this happen? I'm sure you're asking me. Well, to no one's surprise, it happens in the worst scene in the game. The one on the beach with the entire main cast standing in front of a bonfire. Which may be ironic considering that this is the scene that's so heavily advertised in the trailers and thumbnails for GVH. This scene is where Fang and the main cast all come together to sit and have a moment of contemplation in what they believe may be one of their last few days alive from the incoming asteroid. But it ends up turning into a giant shit show fight because Naomi starts blowing up at everyone in a femcel rage since Fang was not overly upset that Calarifest was cancelled. Yes, it's specifically femcel rage, more on that later. While Naomi is mad at Fang, she decides to lash out at everyone in the group and storm off, causing Fang and Trish to also fight, leading to everyone getting upset. You end up making Fang apologize to both Trish and Naomi for some stupid fucking reason because Fang's apparently the bad guy for making peace with the fact that performing at a concert may not be the most important thing to them. Their friends and family is. After making up with Naomi, you get to make the one decision in the game that makes any difference whatsoever, whether or not you want to date Naomi. Yes, the semi-interesting subplot of Fang having a secret admirer is revealed to be Naomi, in the most anticlimactic way possible, who, based on the context given in the story, has never really spoken to Fang until this game, and only has 2 conversations between them in the game up until the confession. This is very indicative of Goodbye Volcano High's writing. Now, when does this confession take place? Right after a huge fight between Fang and Trish and their band breaks up. So naturally, Fang is in no proper mindset to deal with any sort of romance and tells Naomi that while not rejecting her in any way.
Fang, are you okay?
A lot happened after the show. Like, a lot. With Trish and Reed. Honestly, I don't think I'm ready to talk about us. This. Not yet.
Oh. I mean, that's fine.
I promise I'm not trying to avoid you. I just need some time to process this and everything else. Wait for me?
Sure. We can talk later.
Naomi,
It's fine. I'm used to waiting for you. Bye, Fang.
Naomi the femcel, in response, then decides to start being passive-aggressive towards Fang and proceeds to start the aforementioned huge fight among the group.
That's rich coming from you. You're like the most avoidant person I know.
You need to cool down.
Fine, whatever. Now that your dream is canceled, I guess we should all just accept our fates.
Oh, fuck off, Naomi.
I hope you choke on a motherfucking cheese stick, you nasty, greasy bitch. You look like you drink white Gatorade and smell like nickels. Fuck you.
Dating Naomi immediately after this fight is completely tone deaf. While playing through this, my immediate thought is that this is very telling of Naomi, and that if her and Fang were in a romantic relationship, Naomi would be verbally abusive and explode at Fang anytime something bothered her enough. So I chose not to date her on my first playthrough, and never once regretted it. On my second time through the game, I begrudgingly chose to date Naomi, which leads to an awkward date where they sit on the bench from the previous scene. It's almost like they're trying to reuse the same backgrounds as much as possible, and just awkwardly talk for like 6 minutes, which gives you the option to wear a different outfit in the game's finale. Yeah, Naomi is into making magical girl outfits, which they introduce out of nowhere to anticlimactically reveal that she's the secret admirer, while at the same time trying to make her slightly more interesting than a slice of stale wheat bread. Now up until this point, I've only been criticizing the writing of the main cast and none of the supporting characters, because there are none. The supporting cast is essentially non-existent in this game. LJ, the coffee shop owner slash music promoter, has the most character but is only really on screen to be supportive of worm drama, so she's the most likable. The rival band, Swamp Babies, I swear to God, every time I see that name, I think it's a slur. No joke. Is hated by Trish and Fang the entire game because they're very popular in the local music scene. But it's okay because when Fang and company meet Swamp Babies, they're huge assholes, which entirely justifies the childish hatred for people they've never met. Instead of having them be decent people, which would force Fang and Trish to look inward and use it as a chance to grow themselves as characters. But nope! And the only other supporting characters of note would be Fang and their brother Nasser's parents, and they're on a whole other issue with the storytelling in GVH. Fang and Nasser's parents are portrayed as a hardworking traditional Indian couple that are out of town on business for the game, so they only ever talk to Fang and Nasser over video call, but they have a bad internet connection so they conveniently switch to voice chat to save time and money on animation. Weird. They are essentially non-existent in the plot of GVH, aside from one point, Fang's non-binarism. Fang's parents are not bigoted or demeaning of Fang's lifestyle in any way, but having traditional Indian values, they aren't necessarily embracing it, with Fang's mother preferring to use Fang's birth name, Fatima, over their chosen name, Fang. This brings up an interesting plotline for the game, as this awkward air between Fang and their parents, but mostly the mom, the dad is basically non-existent outside of like 4 lines in the game, could bring in some real drama and character growth for both parties, as Fang learns to speak up for themselves and the parents learn that maybe their ways aren't necessarily correct. But it never happens. The parents show up in exactly 2 scenes in the entire game. In the very beginning, where they're introduced, and the very end, where Fang's mom FaceTimes them while making a point to refer to Fang as Fang. There is no buildup, conflict, struggle, growth, nothing. The most potentially interesting plotline for the game became a self-aggrandizing session where Fang gets what they want from their parents with no work for it. Not only is it lazy writing, but I find it to actually be offensive to individuals who have to work to make others, especially their family, accept them. Because having to stand up for yourself takes courage and personal growth, and that's definitely not a good thing for a character-driven narrative, right? Starting with the fact that the game takes place the entirety of Fang's senior year of high school, when you think only a few weeks have passed. You can't even use the seasons as a point of reference because the location is based off California. I was nearly done with the game when I realized a year in-game had nearly passed. I attribute this mainly to the fact that the game basically never talks about school stuff. Upcoming exams, projects, football games, homecoming, all would be simple but effective indicators of time passing, but they're never mentioned because it doesn't move the plot along. There's also none of the goofy but expressive animations that the reveal trailer had. What happened to all those? They would have been a lot more visually appealing than the stiff tweening animations the entire game used. And not to bitch about the Naomi romance again, but when you go on a date with her, it's written so that Fang wants to take things slow, which is weird because the world is ending soon. But in the very next scene, it shows that Naomi spent the night with Fang. I know this is because they've reused the outcome of the non-date scene with Naomi, but it makes it feel like they immediately slept together right after agreeing to take it slow. Cutting corners can have more adverse effects than you'd think. And this is more of a personal grievance, but in the final musical segment of the game, they show a collection of flashbacks of the main cast going on trips and having fun together. It's sort of vague, but I believe it's supposed to take place in their final few weeks so as to have some happy final memories. I'm not sure, but it bugs me because stuff like a beach day and racing with your friends would have been fun to do. The side stuff is some of the best parts in the Persona series.
Hell yeah! A man should... Nah, that's pushing it. Boy, I'd be in some serious shit. I can hear the harps! Stay with us, Ted!
All right, Kanji, I found something!
Wait, that's seaweed!
Oh, there they are. Senpai!
They're coming! Just hide it!
And in these snapshots, it's shown that Fang can actually fly with their wings, and it's never once shown or used in the game. Having segments or mini-games where Fang flies or learns how to fly would have actually been super cool. But no, they clearly cut anything referring to that to save time and money. And it only hurt the game in the end. And you want to know the worst part? I don't even believe any of that to be the most unforgivable thing about Goodbye Volcano High. Worse than the gameplay issues, worse than the unlikable main cast, and even worse than the terrible writing, it's the lack of choices. GVH is promoted as a game where choices matter, and how your story is determined by said choices. There are no choices in this game. Oftentimes, the game will give you a choice and prevent you from picking that one. During the huge fight with Trish, you are given 10 different responses, the most in the entire game, but no matter which one you pick, Fang just remains silent, making the fact that you have so many options completely pointless. More often than not, when you are given a choice in what to do or say, the result is always the same. You have no choice in making Reed get his school picture taken, you have no choice in playing Dungeons & Dragons, which is really unfun and lasts like an hour and a half total, and you have no choice in what songs to change. You simply have no choices. And this is indicative of the ending of the game, because this game only has one ending, and absolutely nothing you do makes a difference. I see people often describe GVH as life is strange with dinosaurs, but that's not accurate, because at least one decision you make in Life is Strange changes the ending of the game. Plus you get like the funniest scene in any game I've ever seen.
You are not going to stop me!
David, kick that table!
Yes, sir! David Madsen!
Hell, people still give Mass Effect 3 shit to this day for building up the entire franchise's in-game decisions to the trilogy's finale to end up being picking between one of 3 endings. But at least you get a choice! Goodbye Volcano High has less impactful decisions than Mass Effect 3. Let that sink in. This is flagrant false advertising and ultimately makes this game irredeemable in my opinion. Looking at the original announcement trailer, the game was supposed to come out in 2021 and wasn't released until 2023. So it's not like they had to rush to get it out. Co-op should have waited a few more months, if not longer, to get all these obvious issues figured out before allowing people to buy it. I'm assuming that there was some sort of financial aspect to this decision. Maybe they ran out of money with the much longer production time? If that's the case, then whatever force pressured them into putting the game out in this sorry state owes everyone who played it an apology. Alongside co-op, of course.
The leaks.
Now, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Goodbye Volcano High leaks that came out while I was writing this review, explaining why the game took so much more time than intended, but still came out so terribly. Now, these are leaks, so you can choose to believe them or not, but I personally find that it would explain why the game came out the way it did. Supposedly, the game was going to have more characters and give them all more depth and complex relationships, with some characters even having their own love interests with story and dialogue, unlike Reed's significant other, who is only shown in screenshots and isn't even given a name. Some of the music minigames were going to have penalties that affect the story based on how well you did, which the final game sorely needed, as well as the musical genre changing based on your character's moral alignment and hobbies that you choose to do. A super interesting and engaging idea that would have made replays really fun. Fang was going to have actual rivals and antagonists that were built up in the story, instead of just being a popular local band that they shoehorned in to be dicks so that Fang and Trish's dislike for them was justified, so that they weren't just being insecure children. I'm going to link the leaks below so you can read them and decide for yourselves, but the gist of the issues seems to stem from a combination of excessive burnout from the devs and consistent issues with management. Again, since these are leaks, you have to decide for yourself whether or not to believe them, but I believe that the final product is pretty strong evidence of at least many of them being true.
Final thoughts.
Goodbye Volcano High is a mess from top to bottom. Admittedly, when I first saw this game's release trailer, I laughed at it just like everyone else.
What the fuck is this? Ah, what is that? The music's so fucking cliche. I love this game. I'm getting this game. Nobody cares. This game is fucking cringe. Volcano High.
But as time went on and the controversies between it and Snoot Game became more and more well known, I did get interested in it in a morbid curiosity sort of way. The only reason I ended up playing what I believe to be an overpriced game is because my friend Fee so kindly gifted it to me. Go follow them, or just go follow them. They're cool. Otherwise, I would have never paid the full price for this game. But in the end, I am glad that I played it. I wanted to give this game a genuine try, even with my aforementioned bias from Snoot Game. And while I did have fun with it, it was for all the wrong reasons. I only ended up enjoying the game by the halfway point because I was ragging on it while constantly frustrated by the poor writing and the stupidly selfish characters. I really did try to like this game because I always want to try and support smaller creators. But this game just feels passionless. Passion is arguably the most important thing for a developer of any kind, because even if what they put out is bad, oftentimes you can still say, yeah, it's not good, but I can tell what they were trying to do with it, and they clearly had a passion for what they were making. But GVH doesn't give that feeling. It feels like a wish fulfillment fantasy of someone leading the project who wrote the story, or an LGBTQ kid feels unaccepted by their parents, but in the end their parents do accept them, and their band is beloved by the whole town and everyone loves them. People give Y2K, a postmodern RPG, a lot of shit for being a bad game where the main character feels like a self-insert, but the main character Alex is a smug, unlikable asshole that nobody would want to be, so being a self-insert is not nearly as wish-fulfilling. And Y2K, also known as Yeek, clearly has so much love and passion put into it, even though the story and gameplay are a mess just like GVH. And that passion lasts to this day, as the creators of Yeek have been working on a massive update for years that completely revamps the gameplay and story, hopefully to come out by the end of 2023. This passion for their game is respectable and clear, and co-op and GVH do not have that same feel. Now, do not misunderstand. I do not want co-op to go under, nor do I want them to stop making games. But Goodbye Volcano High is essentially unfixable unless co-op were to completely remake the game starting from scratch. Because aside from the characters and general story concept, there's nothing here worth salvaging. So to any co-op employees that might be hearing this, GVH is unfixable. You need to start with either an entirely new IP or make a sequel. Scorched Earth. Scorched Pangea? Whatever. I genuinely hope that you guys try again, and I wish you the best of luck with any future projects, but I cannot recommend this game to anyone. Do not buy Goodbye Volcano High. It is a mess that is not worth your time or money. Hey, Fee.
What's up, Mondays?
Yeah, so I wanted to thank you again for Goodbye Volcano High. It was really nice that you gifted it to me, but I gotta be honest with you, I didn't like it. It's a really bad game.
Wow. Honestly, that's gonna be like the most ungrateful thing I've ever heard you say, Mondays. I'm honestly really disappointed in you.
I'm not ungrateful. It's just the game itself is bad. I'm sorry you spent your money on that.
Do you know how much that game costs, bro? Any idea?
Like $30, and admittedly that's too much in my opinion, but I didn't ask for it. You just gave it to me because you're nice, but it doesn't mean it's good. Doesn't mean it's good.
You know what this means, don't you?
I don't like wearing the costumes. I'm gonna go. I'll see.
Mondays. Oh, he's wearing the Harley Quinn outfit this time. That's for sure.